Hello, it's Pete here and welcome to week 2, day 1. Now today we're going to be talking all about inferences from the bidding and the play that we can use to help us count out a bridge hand. So the things I'm going to talk about today are mainly about trying to use some inferences to work out where the points are and a bit about the shape. So we'll start off talking about the bidding and what sort of inferences you can use about how many points they've got, and also inferences on the shape they actually have. So here are just some random hands where we'll try and estimate some things and we'll see what happens here. So let's just pass for now. So it went pass, 3 diamonds, pass, pass, pass. Now you might have bid on my hand, but the north hand, what do we know about the first pass? Our partner does not have 12 or more points, so they don't have an opening bid. But other things we know is that they also didn't open a week 2, so we can sort of rule out some hand shapes for them. So some inferences that we can use, partner has less than 12 points, we can start narrowing down their hand shapes because they also didn't preempt as well. The east hand did preempt, they've got 7 diamonds and typically 6 to 9 points. This is a bit variable upon your opponents, but you'll get to suss them out pretty well. And then west passed, so we know that they're not particularly strong, so they're less than 15. So I really like to just go through and try and guess a bit about what's going on with the shape and the points of some hands. And what you want to do this is just put yourself in their perspective and try and work out what you're doing with their hands. Okay, so here we've got a bit of competitive auction. I opened a diamond, and west overcalled 1 no trump. So straight away we know that the west hand has 15 to 18 points, and also they've got a balanced hand. Now east came in there with Stamen, so we know that they'll at least have a 4-card major, and it looks like they're invitational or better. Okay, now it is really important to get to know your opponent's methods, so if they start alerting stuff you need to ask about it. But here it went 2 clubs, Stamen, 2 hearts, I have 4-card heart suit, and these guys play 2 spades as natural invitational. Some people won't bid 2 spades here, so it's a bit variable and it depends what they've got. But here they've now said they've got precisely 9 points. It's really good when you have auctions like this, because you get to count the high card points really, really well, especially if the east hand becomes the hidden hand. Okay. Now, West said 2 no trumps. Looks like they're not that interested in game because they didn't bid 3 no trumps. So we now can narrow down West's range down to sort of 15 or 16 points. East mentioned their clubs, so they're a bit more distributional now. It says they could have 4+ clubs, but I reckon they probably got 5 or more. And it went 3 spades. 4-card spade suit. I don't actually believe them, even though the robots describe it as that, and they get to 4 spades. Okay, so here it looks like East is going to be the declarer, and also we've got a lot of information that we can gather. So I would guess that East has something like 5 clubs, 4 spades, and something like 3-1 in the other suits. And we also know that they've got exactly 9 points according to their bidding, although I don't always trust everything they say. So let's just swing a heart. Okay, so West did have a spade. So the main things here is I like to check out, does the dummy match what my expectation is? Sometimes you if you come up with a picture of what you expect and then you lead and the dummy's drastically different, you either know you're really in with a good shot on the defense or if you're stuffed. So here, when I led, dummy has the ace of hearts, so they've got 9 points in the majors and 7 points, so they've got 16 points opposite 9, so the opponents have 25 high card points and a spade fit. I was sort of hoping that West had lied and didn't actually have spades here, but it turned out they actually did. So was this sort of what I expected or not? Yes and no. But there's the key things that you want to build a picture up of what do you expect to see when you see dummy hit, and also of what declarer's hand is. And you want to use this on inferences on points and on the shape during the bidding. So for points, usually you have an estimate of the sort of points they have based on whether or not they go to game. Now we'll put a list of sort of the recommended inferences on what sort of points you have in the notes. Check them out, and it's got a guide of if the opponents don't invite game, if they do invite game, or if they bid games directly, what sort of point ranges they'll have combined. And it's really useful for trying to estimate points. With trying to guess what sort of shape they have, this is tricky because there's so many options available, but mainly what you want to do for this is put yourself in their spot, and if you bid this way, what sort of hand shapes might you have? And if you do this, you can come up with a good estimate of what the East's hand or what the declarer's hand is in these sorts of situations. So I really recommend taking some time and just using the bidding and try and estimate what their shape is during the bidding. Now last week we said guess a shape for them, and this is the first step, and we only said like they preempted, maybe you'll guess a 6-3-2-2 shape. They opened a no trump, maybe we'll guess a 4-4-3-2 shape. You want to try and refine that as much as you can, and to do that you have to try and put yourself in their position and think what hand shapes might I have and that would bid this way. And it's really helpful for trying to count out a hand if you can sort of refine that original guess based on sort of the bidding a bit more. It's an easy start just to make a first guess, and that's a good first step, but we want to get more in depth in the bidding, and to do that, don't just think they preempted maybe they have this shape, but then just think, okay, what sort of other hand shapes might I have? And just give yourself a range of hand shapes that they might have for that. So that's how we can use some inferences from the bidding to work out roughly how many points they've got, and also what sort of shapes they might have. Next I'll talk a little bit about what sort of inferences from the play we can use. Okay, so talking about inferences from the play. Now we can see all the cards, and I'll just talk about some of the common inferences that you can use. So we'll talk about, like, if the opponents stop drawing trumps, what do we know? If the opponents don't trump something when you can see it in dummy, what do we know? If the opponents don't take a finesse, what do we know about their hand? There's lots of these things that we can try and use. So we'll just talk about what some of the common inferences are. Okay, so West gets to play 4 hearts on some bidding. You know that they've got length in hearts. Okay, now you're the South hand. I've got all the cards available for you, but we'll just talk through it. So it goes a spade lead, and this is the dummy right here. We've got Queen third, Ace Queen Jack to 6, Ace Jack 10, singleton. We don't really know what's partners led from, but they put up the ace. Okay, so there's 2 reasons why they typically won't take a finesse. One of them is they have a shortage. Okay, so if they've got a singleton spade, they won't typically take the finesse there. The other reason that they might not take the finesse is they've got length and they're afraid of being roughed. So straight away, as soon as they don't take this spade finesse, we can think, okay, there's a sort of couple of different options of what they have. Maybe they've got length in spades, or maybe they've got a shortage in spades. Depending on the bidding or other things later in the play, you might be able to work that out. Okay, so they win the ace, and now they take a heart finesse. So as South, you play low, and your partner wins the king. Okay, now partner switches to the king of diamonds. Okay, they win, and they don't duck it, they win it, sorry. Okay, and you steal South, and they draw trumps. Okay, they got this club in dummy, but they haven't tried to trump it, right? So when I see a shortage in dummy and the opponents aren't trying to trump something, I start trying to think why they did that. Anyway, on this actual hand, it went another heart, partner pitched a club, and they drew an extra round of trumps. They didn't get rid of the trumps. This is something odd that happens, so I start to think, why would that happen? Okay. Anyway, they now lead a spade, and you see that partner shows out, so you do know that West was the one with length in trumps. Okay, and you get to win the spade ace. So you've got 2 tricks so far, and you need to work out what tricks are standing up. Now remember that you can only see the East hand at this stage. So it looks something like this. Okay, you've got to win 2 tricks so far, and you have to work out what do you have left that you can win. So you know that you've got this club that can stand up. Okay, Now dummy's out of trumps, so do we have a winning club trick? In fact, partner had even bid clubs on the particular hand in question. But we've either got the queen of clubs, that might be a winner, or the queen of diamonds. Now the key thing here is there's a good inference from the play that should direct you to letting you know that the queen of diamonds is the card that's going to stand up. Firstly, if West had losers in clubs, what would they have done? They would have tried to trump them. They wouldn't have drawn all the trumps before trying to ruff their club losers, so they would have tried to draw the trumps first. So you know straight away that if you see a shortage in dummy and they don't try and ruff losers in club in that suit, then you know pretty well that they don't have losers to try and get rid of. Now this hand was extra special. In fact, they drew an extra round of trumps to make sure that dummy had no trumps. So if they were worried at all about their club losers, they wouldn't be doing this. So this is a massive inference from the play that they actually don't have any club losers to get trumped. So you don't need to try and play a club now. The fact is you actually want to play a diamond. So here, if you see a shortage in dummy and they don't try and trump anything in that, they either don't have losers in that or they're not worried about it at all. So usually if they have losers in that size suit, they'll try and trump it. When they don't, you now have a really good inference that they don't have losers there. And in fact, we want to try and take up diamond trick to beat the contract. So you want to try and work out from declarer's line of play, does it make sense what they've done? Okay. On this one, we just want to look at the spade suit in question. Whatever it is, we're just only caring about the spades. Okay, and okay, they cash the ace of spades and now lead a low spade. Okay, so we could see this. We could see the ace queen to 5 spades, and they cash the ace of spades, and they've now led a low one. We're only wondering about the spades. Should we put the king on it? So there was ace queen to 5 spades in the dummy, and they played the ace, and now they led a small one away. Now lots of people feel the urge to put the king on this, but one really strong inference is if you can see an ace queen in a suit, so ace queen to 5 spades, so they had the ace over there. If they don't take a finesse, there's usually a good reason. So here, if West had 2 little spades, they'd probably get to their hand and lead a low spade to the queen. So they don't have 2 little spades. So what's a common hand that would just lay down the ace and then just play another one? This will typically be a singleton spade. So if someone refuses to take a finesse, there's usually a good reason, and that's because they've got a shortage. So if someone doesn't want to take a spade finesse, or a finesse in any suit, try and put yourself in their position and think, what would have they done in the situation? So if they have a finessable position and then they don't take it, it's usually because they have a shortage, and that means you can actually play low rather than putting up your big trump. Whereas if you put your king up, it just gets trumped straight away. So another inference from the play that we can use is if they don't take a finesse, try and work out why. The most common reason that they do, if it's in a trump suit, is that they've got a shortage there and they don't actually want to take a finesse when it might lose. So if they just play something like small to the ace and then a low one out, just comfortably play low and watch them trump it. You can use these inferences to really try and have a guess at their shape. The final one I was going to mention is, okay, they got pretty high here. I just wanted to see how the robots would actually bid this. Okay, so here in the spade suit, I've actually got a spade fit. Okay, and the last inference I wanted to do is working out how many spade trumps someone has based on how many rounds they draw. Okay, so if we're this south hand and the opponents are playing in spades and they win something and then just play 1 spade and then they play another spade, you've only got 2. They could have had a 8-card fit. You don't know from the bidding what they've actually got. But if they only draw 2 rounds of trumps and then they stop drawing trumps, what is the most common reason for them to stop drawing those trumps? If someone stops drawing trumps, the main reason is that your side is out of trumps. There's a few other reasons that they could have, like our side has the master trump or other things like that. But the very main reason people draw trumps and then stop is that your side's out of trumps. So if you thought that they might have only had an 8-card fit and they just draw 2 rounds and stop, take some time back, think maybe they've got a 9-card fit and they've actually drawn all the trumps. This is the most common reason that they have that. So if you're having a guess at what sort of shape they had and you just picked that they only had a 5-3 fit and they just draw 2 rounds and then they change tack, think maybe they've got 6 cards and try and reevaluate your guess on their shape. Anyway, that's all I was going to talk about today on some inferences from the bidding and the play. From the bidding, you want to work out of how quickly they bid to game, so get a rough estimate of their points. Check out the notes for what point ranges we recommend people are most likely in. This will vary a bit. Also, inferences from the shape. What you want to do is put yourself in their perspective and think, if you had this auction, what sort of hand shapes might fit that category? Then finally, inferences from the play. If you see a shortage in dummy and they don't try trumping losers, they probably don't have any losers in there. They've either got good cards there or a shortage themselves. If they don't take a finesse, but instead play something to the ace and another one out, it's probably because they've got a shortage in that suit, and you can use that information to have an actual guess of their shape. And finally, if they start drawing trumps and then they stop, maybe they've got a bigger trump suit than you've actually guessed, so you might reevaluate how many trumps they've got and guess that way. Anyway, thanks for watching, hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you tomorrow.